There's a truth nobody wants to face. Because it hurts. But running from it costs even more. Your peace, your relationships, and above all, your emotional freedom. You won't heal until you face what's behind your mom. That's right. Healing doesn't come with time or pretty quotes about letting go. It begins when you look within and have the courage to question what you were taught never to touch. The impact your relationship with your mother still has on your life, even if you swear you've moved on. Spoiler: if you're still repeating patterns, still feeling guilty for saying no, or losing yourself trying to please everyone, that wound is wide open. And no, this isn't about blaming your mom. It's about setting free the wounded child you locked away years ago, the one that still screams in silence. It's about understanding why you attract people who drain you, why your body freezes, why you feel pulled down even when everything seems fine. That's not bad luck. It's emotional programming. It's psychic inheritance. In this video, you'll discover how the mother archetype, the maternal complex, and deep unconscious patterns might be shaping your reality without you even noticing. More importantly, you'll learn how to break these cycles with awareness, with practice, and above all, with courage. But before we dive in, let me ask you something real. Are you ready to face the truth about the person who shaped you more than anyone else? And everything still living inside you because of her? The image of the mother is not just a person. It's a symbol that lives in the collective unconscious. This symbol is as old as humanity. It represents the source of life, the first contact with the world, and at the same time holds a frightening potential for emotional domination. Jung saw in this archetype one of the most powerful and most difficult to recognize forces within the psyche. From the earliest days of life, our perception of love, safety, and even self-worth begins to form through the mother-child bond. The way we are fed, touched, and welcomed builds an emotional map. And this map, even unconsciously, influences how we relate to the world, and especially to ourselves. The mother archetype is not only protective. When distorted through trauma, absence, or excess, it becomes a source of emotional repression. How many people grow up afraid to disappoint their mother? Or with the feeling that they're never enough? That doesn't disappear over time. It just takes new forms. Many adults unconsciously repeat the same emotional experiences from childhood. A woman raised under constant criticism might become a compulsive perfectionist. A man raised by an anxious mother might become dependent on external validation. These are repetitive patterns rooted in the symbolic power of the mother. Even when there is no strong presence, absence itself leaves a mark. The void of an emotionally distant mother becomes a hole hard to fill. And the bigger the hole, the more likely the person will seek external compensation. Toxic relationships, addictions, self-sabotage. What lies beneath? Often, an unacknowledged childhood trauma. That's why so many adults remain emotionally stuck in childhood. They live as if still trying to fix, prove something, or win the approval of someone no longer there. The mind keeps trying to solve an equation that began with the maternal bond. And the body feels it too. Tension, anxiety, insomnia, often expressions of unprocessed psychic inheritance. But what is repressed repeats. This is one of the hard truths that Jungian therapy brings to the surface. And that's why working on self-knowledge in this area is so powerful. Healing doesn't mean blaming the mother. It means recognizing how that energy still moves within us and how we can break free from it with compassion. A helpful starting point. What image comes to mind when you think of mother? Love? Pressure? Absence? Your answer may reveal much about the shadow you carry, because even the idealized mother can become a prison. Everything left unspoken eventually manifests in distorted ways. Facing this archetype also takes courage. It requires revisiting old wounds without fear of reliving them. Books like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle or Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes can be powerful allies in this journey of personal growth and emotional liberation. And once this process begins, it rarely stops. Because when you uncover the archetype, you don't just understand your story, you begin to rewrite it. And that's where the maternal complex starts to reveal its deeper layers. The maternal complex is like an invisible magnetic field pulling behaviors, emotions, and choices without us realizing it. It's born from the actual relationship we had with our mother, or whoever played that role. And it feeds on what was lived, what was missing, and especially what was felt but never named. The result? An emotional load that silently shapes adult life. In real life, this complex shows up in many ways. In some people, it's a constant need to please, as if saying no might destroy a bond. In others, it manifests as bottled-up anger, harsh self-judgment, or fear of intimacy. These aren't random behaviors. They are unconscious attempts to resolve unmet needs from the maternal bond. The maternal complex can idealize or demonize the mother figure. At one extreme, she's seen as sacred, untouchable, perfect, which makes it hard to acknowledge personal wounds. On the other, she becomes the object of blame, criticism, and emotional distance. In both cases, unresolved repressed emotions are at play. People often don't even realize they're caught in this complex. But it shows up in their relationships, career decisions, how they deal with authority, or even how they treat their own bodies. One example? Someone with a critical mother might keep attracting partners who judge them harshly, and confuse that with love. That's a repetitive unconscious pattern. The good news? This complex can be transformed. But first, it has to be seen. Jungian therapy is incredibly helpful here because it allows the individual to engage with their inner images. A good therapist doesn't judge. They help you trace the tangled threads of your psyche and weave a new narrative. This is where reparenting becomes essential. Reparenting means offering yourself what you didn't receive as a child: comfort, validation, freedom to make mistakes. It could be as simple as letting yourself rest without guilt, or more in-depth, like writing unsent letters to your mother, expressing what's been buried for years. It's not easy, but it's liberating. Many people report breaking intergenerational cycles of pain by working through the maternal complex. Children become different kinds of parents. Adults stop abandoning themselves. It's inner transformation. Quiet, but powerful. Why is this so transformative? Because true psychological healing begins when you stop waiting for others to change and start taking action. When you realize your suffering is no longer your mother's fault, but your unconscious loyalty to outdated patterns, you become free. And with freedom comes real psychological self-care. And by the way, self-care isn't just herbal tea and spa days. It's saying enough to what drains you. It's setting boundaries. It's not punishing yourself for having needs. That's radical for someone who was taught love must be earned through sacrifice. But to get there, you must face the maternal shadow. Because hidden beneath memories and silence lies the part of you that still needs healing. According to Carl Jung, the shadow is everything we repress in ourselves for not fitting into what we learned was acceptable. And when it comes to the mother figure, that shadow can run deep. It includes unspoken anger, swallowed resentment, guilt for feeling relief when you pull away, all part of a psychic territory that must be brought into the light. Because what you don't see controls you. Many confuse the shadow with evil. But it's not bad. It's simply what was excluded from your conscious self. If you were taught never to speak against your mother, that emotion was buried. Over time, it becomes a stored energy that can manifest as anxiety, stress, or even physical symptoms. That's why self-knowledge is not a luxury. It's a survival skill. To identify the maternal shadow is to confront feelings you were taught to hide. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's the key to freedom. A good place to start is by noticing situations where your emotional response is disproportionate. Rage, fear, judgment. These triggers are echoes from the past asking to be recognized. For example, if being ignored sends you into a spiral, maybe it mirrors the pain of not being heard as a child. Or if guilt strikes every time you say no, it could reflect a belief that love only came with obedience. Shadow integration begins with insights like this, small realizations that spark major shifts. The shadow also shows up in dreams, slips of the tongue, or certain recurring phrases. It's as if the unconscious leaves clues in daily life. That's why keeping an emotion journal, interpreting your dreams, or practicing expressive writing can be so powerful. These are real tools for inside-out emotional healing. And remember, identifying your shadow isn't about blaming yourself. Quite the opposite. It's acknowledging that often you did the best you could with what you had. Emotional liberation begins when you stop judging what you feel and start holding space for it. That's when inner transformation becomes possible. But this process isn't intellectual. Understanding it logically isn't enough. You have to feel it. Grieve what you didn't get. Acknowledge the rejection. Honor the hidden anger. All of that is part of the individuation process, where your soul becomes whole by reuniting its fragmented parts. It's not about confronting your mother with accusations. That would just keep the pain going. It's about confronting yourself and having the humility to see that until the wound is met with love, it will be passed on. That's how intergenerational cycles are born, and that's how they end. There are many ways to do this emotional work. Family constellations, inner child meditations, creative therapy, even therapeutic theater. The key is to find a safe way to let your shadow speak. Because a shadow that's acknowledged transforms into light. And that light is what leads us to the next step, discovering who we really are. Because only when the shadow is held does the ego make room for the self. And that's where the individuation truly begins. The individuation process is arguably the deepest concept in all of Jungian psychology. It's not a destination, it's a journey. The journey of becoming who you truly are, not the version others expect, not the one trying to please your mother, but the one that emerges when you integrate all parts of yourself, light and shadow, longing and fear, pain and truth. This is the path to inner freedom. Many confuse individuation with individualism, but it's the opposite. It's not about isolating yourself. It's about reconciling with yourself. When you start noticing your repetitive patterns, your inner conflicts, your repressed emotions, you realize there's a true you buried under layers of conditioning, many of them rooted in the mother-child relationship. In this process, the mother archetype is one of the first to be re-examined. After all, it shapes much of your emotional identity. If you don't review this bond, you risk living your whole life trying to please an internalized figure, while neglecting your authentic self. Individuation is like carving a statue from a marble block. The shape is already there. The task is removing the excess. And that excess is often the voice of the past, saying what you should do, be, or feel. For someone raised under rigid maternal expectations, this work may feel terrifying, but it's also profoundly liberating. Pain is part of the process. As you begin to step away from inherited roles, you may feel guilt, fear, or even shame. But Jung reminds us, nothing changes until it becomes conscious. Awareness transforms, and the closer you get to your true self, the greater your capacity to love, without attachment. Meditation, visualizations centered on the higher self, and reflective journaling with questions like, what is truly mine and what is inherited, can speed up this process. They help you distinguish between conscious choices and unconscious programming, a vital skill for personal growth. During individuation, the ego has to give up control, and that's painful. But when you stop identifying only with your constructed image, you begin to see something bigger at play, a deeper intelligence, an inner wisdom that's always been there, and that wisdom starts to guide you. At this point, shadow integration and reparenting become more powerful because you're no longer trying to fix childhood, but to embrace who you became because of it. And more than that, who you can still become. That shift changes how you love, how you choose, how you live. Individuation never ends. It's a continuous rhythm of inner transformation. And the beauty is, as you walk this path, you not only heal yourself, you heal your lineage. You break chains, not just for you, but for those who come after. And with this new awareness, it becomes easier to spot the patterns you've been stuck in. Because once the light enters, you can't go back to pretending it's dark. We repeat and repeat until one day we get tired and choose to wake up. Recognizing patterns is one of the most painful yet revealing steps in the healing process. Because realizing that many of your decisions weren't really yours is heartbreaking. But it's also the exact point where you can start rewriting your story. These patterns run deep. They are automatic responses built in childhood, often tied to the maternal complex. If you learned that love had to be earned by behaving, you might grow into an adult afraid to take up space. If you were criticized constantly, you may now live with a harsh inner voice that kills your momentum. The tricky part is, these patterns are comfortable. Even when they hurt, they feel familiar. A classic example? Constantly attracting emotionally unavailable people. At first glance, it looks like bad luck. But dig deeper, and you may find it mirrors an early maternal bond, one that lacked consistent emotional presence. Recognizing a pattern requires presence. A great exercise is creating an emotional map of your past relationships. Who did you attract? How did things end? What keeps repeating? When you trace the roots, they often lead back to old ground. Childhood, adolescence, forgotten traumas, repressed emotions. It's not just about behavior. Thought patterns matter too. Do you constantly blame yourself? Feel like you're never enough? Live in defense mode? These mental loops are just as powerful as external ones. They shape your identity and reflect the depth of your psychic inheritance. The most important part? Don't judge yourself. These patterns aren't weakness. They're survival. Adaptations you made to emotionally survive what was too much to handle back then. But what protected you then may be sabotaging you now. That's where self-awareness turns into healing. Start small. Name the pattern out loud. I'm reliving the child who had to be perfect to be loved. Just speaking the truth weakens the pattern's grip. You stop being a puppet of your past and start becoming intentional. And here's the key. Patterns don't change through willpower. They change through understanding, practice, and, most importantly, reparenting. Because only when you learn to give yourself what was missing do you stop looking for it in the wrong places. Each pattern is a message, a part of you asking for care. When you realize that even your mistakes begin to serve a purpose. And with that clarity, the next step becomes inevitable, learning how to truly take care of yourself. Reparenting is one of the most transformative ideas in depth psychology. It starts with a powerful truth. If the child in you didn't get what they needed, the adult you've become can learn to provide it. This isn't about replacing your mother. It's about becoming a new emotional reference point. Someone who listens, cares, and protects. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. Start by asking, what was missing in your childhood? Validation? Affection? Freedom to make mistakes? Then build small practices to fulfill those needs. It could be speaking to yourself with kindness, setting boundaries, or investing in hobbies that nourish your soul. All of that is psychological self-care. Many people think reparenting is too spiritual or complicated, but it's not. It's putting an extra pillow on your bed because you deserve comfort. It's turning off your phone because you need peace. It's saying no without guilt. It's giving yourself what you once thought only others could provide. Reparenting also involves the body. When you let yourself rest, eat with pleasure, move your body with care instead of punishment, you teach your nervous system. You're safe now. And when there is safety, inner transformation flows more easily. Your body stops screaming what your soul is whispering. Practical tools help. Inner child letters, writing as your child self, then responding as your adult self. Visualization exercises, or journaling about unmet needs. These may seem symbolic, but the effects are real. They support shadow integration and help break intergenerational cycles of emotional neglect. Another essential part of reparenting: learning to defend yourself. Often, the wounded child in us still tolerates harmful relationships because they've never been taught that they deserve better. When you become your own internal protector, you start guarding your boundaries the way you'd protect a child. That's inner transformation in action. Of course, there will be setbacks. You'll slip into old self-talk, fall into old dynamics. But even in those moments, you can choose differently. Breathe, acknowledge, try again. Psychological healing isn't linear. It's cyclical. Each small win is a giant leap toward emotional freedom. Over time, you realize you don't need to chase love outside anymore. It grows from within, the fruit of conscious, repeated, self-nurturing choices. That changes everything: your self-esteem, your relationships, your energy. Reparenting is a daily choice, not to erase the past, but to rewrite its meaning. And once you've taken that step, you might find a powerful ally waiting to walk beside you on the next level of healing. Jungian therapy. Jungian therapy isn't just talk. It's deep soul work. Unlike approaches that only treat symptoms, this one seeks the root, the symbols, dreams, and archetypes that lie behind emotional pain. And when it comes to healing the maternal complex, this approach is especially powerful. Because what was built in the unconscious must be healed in the unconscious. The goal of analytical psychology is integration, making the unconscious conscious. The psyche isn't just a trauma vault, it's also a reservoir of healing and wisdom. By bringing up images like the Mother Archetype, the shadow, or the wounded inner child, you stop treating symptoms like anxiety, blocks, or sabotage, and start healing the causes. Many people begin therapy talking about their mom. She was like this. She did that. But healing starts when you stop analyzing her and start exploring how it all affected you. Because this isn't about understanding your mother. It's about healing the part of you still tied to that bond. In Jungian therapy, dreams are allies. Jung said dreams are the language of the soul, and often the unconscious uses them to show you emotional needs, old wounds, or distorted maternal dynamics. Analyzing those symbols isn't woo-woo, it's real psychology. For example, a recurring dream about an old, dark house where a controlling mother appears. That house might represent the emotional childhood, and the mother, an internal part still suppressing freedom. These insights are the spark of inner transformation. Jungian therapy also uses active imagination, symbol analysis, dialogue with inner parts, and mandala creation. Not to explain the mind, but to harmonize opposites, conscious and unconscious, ego and self, mother and self-sovereignty. A core idea here is that the patient is the hero of their own journey. The therapist is a guide, not a judge. This fosters emotional autonomy and encourages a path of self-awareness and self-care grounded in personal responsibility. Often, even external relationships with the mother shift, without her changing anything. Because the real work is inside. As you integrate your shadow, express buried pain, and reframe old stories, your view of your mother changes. She becomes human, just like you. And that's when you understand. You're not broken. You're rebuilding. This takes time, courage, and above all, a commitment to your truth. Because in the end, Jungian therapy isn't about making peace with your mother. It's about making peace with yourself. And that peace deepens when you learn how to protect your own time, energy, and heart. That's where psychological self-care becomes not a trend, but your lifeline. Talking about psychological self-care isn't about bath bombs or herbal teas, though those can help. It's about making a sacred commitment to your emotional integrity. And after exploring the maternal complex, integrating the shadow, and stepping into individuation, self-care becomes a radical act of self-respect. It starts with your thoughts. Observe them. Question your self-criticism. Change how you speak to yourself. Many of us carry the same voice our mothers used, and it's often not kind. Replacing "you're worthless" with "you're still learning" may sound small, but it rewires your inner world. A simple yet powerful practice is the emotional check-in. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What does my body need? Many people ignore their fatigue because they were taught that rest is weakness. That's psychic inheritance, and it can be broken. Another essential tool is reflective writing. Journal about what you're feeling, what triggered you, what memories surfaced. Naming repressed emotions is already halfway toward emotional liberation. Put on some instrumental music, grab a notebook, and let it pour out. Creativity is medicine. Painting, dancing, singing, cooking. They reconnect you to yourself without ego interference. They reawaken the spontaneity of the child you were before the wounds. And they offer a playful break from the rigidity of the maternal complex. Caring for your body is also soul care. A mindful walk, a nourishing meal, a workout that feels like love, all tell your unconscious, you are safe here. And when the body feels safe, inner transformation happens more naturally. Meditation is another pillar. You don't need an hour. Just 5 minutes of silence and deep breathing can reset your system. Guided meditations focused on inner child healing or reparenting are excellent tools for personal growth. Nature heals too. Watch the sunset. Touch the earth. Listen to the wind. These things remind you that life doesn't demand performance. It invites presence. And presence is profoundly healing. And maybe the most powerful self-care of all? Boundaries. Saying no. Leaving draining environments. Protecting your energy. It's not selfish. It's emotional survival. Especially if you were raised to believe that sacrifice equals love. To care for yourself is to say every day, I matter. And saying that with truth is the ultimate rebellion against everything that once told you otherwise. Now that you've seen the depth of this journey, the real question is, what will you do with it? Will you keep carrying pain that's no longer yours? Will you keep repeating the same old patterns just because they feel familiar? Or will you take the lead and start, finally, taking care of yourself with intention and truth? Psychological healing doesn't come from outside. It begins the moment you decide to look within. No filters, no judgment, no more running. How many of your life decisions were shaped by what happened in childhood? How many of your relationships were built on wounds that weren't even yours, but passed down? How many dreams have you buried because of that inner voice saying you're not enough? Well, that voice, it's not you. It's just an echo from the past. And now that you understand where it comes from the maternal complex, from emotional repression, from psychic inheritance, you can finally start quieting it through real psychological self-care, reparenting, and shadow integration. So here's your challenge. Pick just one self-loving habit today. Just one. It could be writing a letter to your inner child, walking in silence, or simply saying, I deserve this, in front of the mirror. That one small step today might break an entire intergenerational cycle. If this content stirred something in you, then it's already doing its job. But this is just the beginning. In the upcoming videos, we'll go even deeper into healing, individuation, and inner transformation. So if this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and walk with me on this path. After all, what do you still need to face to finally be free?